Hello and what's up everyone, Thunderbob here, and I am back playing some more Diablo 2 Resurrected. I apologize, I've not played this game for about a month or two. When they announced the patch and the upcoming ladder, I kind of just said, I'm going to step away from the game for a little while. I don't want to get burnt out on it, especially since I'm going to be playing the ladder pretty hardcore. I got into some other games, but now that the patch has dropped, I am definitely going to be doing some more build videos and going to be doing some more coverage of the game, and when ladder drops in 2 weeks, I will definitely be starting several characters. My idea for the ladder is actually to go hardcore. I have not done hardcore in a number of years. I get into the 90s with the hardcore Fury Druid, and I'm kind of debating what character to go with. Right now, I'm leaning towards Necromancer and a Fury Druid. Probably start with Necro, and when I get some gear built up, then switch to a Fury Druid. And my end goal is actually to get each of the classes into the 90s with all 7 classes. So far I've got a Sorceress, a Trap Assassin, and a Smiter, Zealot, Paladin. For hardcore, I think Necro and Druid are pretty good choices. I'm going to go through the build I'm considering and some of the end game items and setups you can run. But also I'll be talking about kind of some of the gear for leveling and for some of the options for leveling. So, with further ado, here's what I'm rocking. Arm of King Lyric. You just get a 2+2 diadem with some crazy FCR and run walk and stuff. Enigma for that teleport. This is very important for Summon Necromancer, though less important with some of the changes that they've made, and I'm going to demonstrate that shortly. Mars Kaleidoscope, Dark Force Spawn, Marowak, SOJ, Arachnids, SOJ, Trangules, some crazy summoning, skill, Grand Charms. Yeah. That's what I'm rocking here. And I've got a Merc here with Infinity. I've run this with Pride as well. With the setup we're running today, I'm trying Infinity. Got Fortitude, and I got Tal Rasha's on. The basic skills for this build, you could be done by about 60 to 70, depending on what direction you want to go in. So your core skills for the build I like for hardcore is 20 in Reskeleton, 20 in Skeleton Mastery, and then basically 1 all the way down to Revive and your Resist and your Golem Mastery. You're primarily going to be using normal skeletons. I like Clay Golem in most cases, though there's some arguments for using Iron Golem with, some of the cheaper items that give auras, like Insight Iron Golems are pretty popular. Poison and Bone, Corpse Explosion, that's really all you need, 20 points in Corpse Explosion. And then 1 in all of the core Curses, Amp Damage, Decrepify, and Lower Resist are your most important. Dim Vision can also be really fun for hardcore, might be an option you might want to go with. It almost makes the game too easy at times, it just stops enemies in their tracks. But you could also go that direction. Decrepify plus Clay Golem will pretty much lock down bosses, like where they don't even attack or anything. It's pretty great. Especially good when you're first leveling up. For stats, just enough strength for gear, rest and vitality. You could go for max block. I usually don't on Necro, as you've got enough minions that you shouldn't be getting hit in melee. You're mostly going to be taking, spells and magic damage, so I usually don't go for block with this build. Back to the skills, like I mentioned, 20, 20, 20 are your core, and then the curses, and then 1 point pretty much everywhere else. That'll get you, I think it's like 68. I maxed out, and with the skills you get for the quests, you can have this build out by like 60. From there, you've got some choices. With the changes to Skeleton Mage, I'm trying that today. You could instead try Revives. You could max out your Golem Mastery and Resist. If you don't have a lot of plus skills, it might actually be a good idea to put some points there. I've seen some people go with like some of the poison skills or focus on some of the bone skills. You could even go for bone armor if you're doing hardcore in particular, though usually you would max out your prison and bone wall before bone armor, as it gives you more points. So you have a lot of options. for the Necro. You really don't need that many to get beyond your core skills. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to run through a couple of areas, and I'm going to show you like player 1 and also player 8 difficulty and how effective it can be. The first thing is creating your army, and a lot of people don't realize this, but it's as easy as just going to the temple here and just spam as much as you can, as quickly as you can, before these guys start raising from the dead. If you're quick, which I was not here, you can pretty much max out your army without ever having to actually fight anyone. So it saves you a bit of time when you're first starting out. But that's pretty good. We'll go ahead and we'll go do some murdering. Early on, I think the Necromancer is really good for certain things. I think they're quite good for cows because of Corpse Explosion. Anywhere where there's a high monster density, Corpse Explosion really shines. Things like Chaos Sanctuary, they're pretty decent at. Some of the level 85 areas as well. So what I want to do, I'm just going to run through River of Flame and do Diablo. And we'll bring our army with us. For the most part, you're going to be using amp damage while you're running through here. You amp, you let one enemy die, and you Corpse Explosion. That's pretty much the name of the game here. And this is player 1 difficulty. I'm going to bump it up to player 8 difficulty before long. Decryptify I mostly use on the bosses, and then lower resist can be good to increase the damage on your skeletal mages. Though usually amp damage is more beneficial for like your explosion, because your Corpse Explosion does half fire and half physical. So in most cases I'll be using the amplify damage, excuse me. Having a brain fart there. Didn't even bring out my clay golem. And you really can just sit back if you're geared up enough. But you're going to be doing it a lot faster with Corpse Explosion. Corpse Explosion is the main reason I think that the Necromancer will always beat the Summon Druid. Like, Summon Druid got some pretty big buffs, and actually I'd say they're almost competitive. But they can't do that, you know. A Corpse Explosion or two, and everything on your screen is cleared out. That's just how it is. Yeah. Oop. I don't have any things on me, but we'll check that when I go to town. No identifying tome on me. And the nice thing about the Necro is you can really beat the game like with no gear whatsoever. Not fast by any means, but pretty safely. If anything, I play less safe when I've got Enigma. When I'm playing the normal game, I definitely take it a little bit slower. And you can really beat the game. Like, you're not going to run into any immunities you can't deal with between Corpse Explosion, between your skeletons, your mercenary, lower resist, amp damage. Like, there's pretty much nothing in the game that can straight up stop you. It's, you know, for that reason, one of the best I find soloing classes. It's very safe because you've got so many guys soaking up damage around you. Usually if you die, it's because you've made a mistake. You got distracted, you walked into enemies or something, you used your tools. Or you hit teleport instead of Corpse Explosion. One bug they've had for years is when you get enough enemies, when you've got enough summons, when you teleport, they kind of bug out on you, and you got to move a little bit to make them do anything. One cool thing is you can totally teleport onto a target, and pretty much all your guys will just instantly melt them. Ah, stupid. Okay, I clicked it. Now, for the bosses, one tip, you can pick up some of the Urdar guys in the River of Flame, and they do Crushing Blow. And if you get enough of them, you can even solo the Ubers pretty effectively with this build. They do Crushing Blow, and enough of them will kill pretty much anything. Let's just see what that ring was. I'm playing single player right now, and if I get an SOJ, I'm going to be mad. Or even Frost. One thing I did quickly want to demonstrate, I've noticed with the patch, they've fixed some of the pathing issues and where you'd lose summons after a while. And one area in particular I always dreaded coming with the Necro, because of pathing issues and because of how they stack on top of each other and the fact that they could block and things like that. They don't block you. They also, and you'll notice, they'll just teleport to you. So like, they're just in front of you, and that comes in handy quite a lot. Like, you run into enemies, you'll have the skeleton seemingly on, like, look at that, like they're just up there just fighting the guys already. It's not perfect, but it's way more enjoyable for some of these really tight areas that were not enjoyable before. It makes them a lot easier to handle, I would say. Like, look, I got skeletons like all up in here already. So the way the teleport algorithm seems to work is when you get too far, the furthest ones like teleport all around you, and if it's tight corridors, they may go in front of you, they may go down different pathways. So just a little quality of life feature that I'm really appreciative of with the patch. Okay, we're gonna bump this up to players 8. We're gonna do some good old cows. And just show you how effective this can be with cows. Basically, at player 8, you're not doing a ton of damage with your summons. Your mercenary's probably going to be putting out the most damage. But all you got to do is kill a single enemy, and because of Corpse Explosion being percentage-based damage, it just wrecks. It scales super well with the higher player difficulties. Basically, a single enemy dies, and everything on your screen will die. And everything you kill allows you to use more corpse explosions, allow you to summon more, more of your guys here. Some cows too. I put the last of my points into revive. I normally wouldn't do that because I don't get up to 99 generally, but this is single player, I'm just using for testing here. So like, even with all of these guys, it's not the most effective. Like, in player 8 difficulty, your summons are not, wrecking everything. Your corpse explosion is really what does the most damage. So they're not the most effective boss killers in my mind, unless you go and get some Urdars, which is kind of time consuming. Once something dies, clear the screen. And what's great is Corpse Explosion, you don't need a bunch of plus skills to make it work. You put 20 points in it, the damage the same at 1 point and 20. The only thing that increases is the range on it. So by about 20, you've got a skill that should be able to clear the entire screen with no gear at all. So you get to Nightmare difficulty, you get to Hell difficulty, you can immediately jump into cows and effectively farm, really with crap gear. As long as you can kill one enemy, you can clear cows. And it's pretty fast. It's not, It's not quite Lightning Fury speed, it's not quite Blizzard, you know, Sorceress speed, but it's definitely up there. And the fact that you can do it without really any gear is pretty great, because that Lightning Fury Amazon, that Blizzard Sorceress, requires a, you know, a decent amount of gear to be able to hit those kind of speeds, in my mind. Whereas I could be naked and I could deal that kind of damage to those cows. Just from the 60 points between Skeleton Mastery, Skeletons, and my Corpse Explosion and my amp damage. So, that's my thoughts. I think my plan right now is to go Necromancer, and then feed my other hardcore characters, probably a Fury Druid, maybe a Bow or a Lightning Fury Amazon, and then finally get a Barbarian, probably a Frenzy Barb. Yeah. And definitely going to be spending some more time on this game. I've kind of been away playing some other games. You can see some of the content on the channel from things like Elden Ring and from Dying Light 2. I put quite a bit of time in and really enjoyed both of those games. But I'm back on Diablo, at least for a while. If I get burnout on it or bored, I might drop off and play some other games, but definitely expect a good amount of Diablo content in the future. I am going to end the video here. If you've got any thoughts on the build, any recommendations for hardcore, and what, you know, are some good, effective, solo, self-found builds, let me know. I do appreciate everyone who watches and comments and likes and subscribes, and thank you again, everyone. Have a good night.